Thank you so much for sitting down and talking.
Yeah.
So I loved, your part. And I just had a really quick question. So Broadcast Signal Intrusion is a sci-fi thriller.
Mhm.
Are you yourself big into sci-fi and horror?
um, Not into horror.
Okay.
Even though I've done a lot of horror now and I've produced a horror short film, but I don't personally watch it. Sci-fi, I I really enjoy. Thriller, I guess I would say, is one of my favorite genres. Um, yeah, I like sci-fi. I'm not a huge like I don't know Star Trek and
Hmm.
Star Wars and all that stuff, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, your character in this movie, like, kind of right off the bat when you first meet her, she's kind of mysterious, right? So
Oh
hood
yeah.
up and stuff, and then, I think that there's a lot of drive in her. She's very, she's very motivated and knows what she wants. But what was it like going into a character like that? That, yeah.
I mean, I think apart from her backstory and what she's dealt with, which is a lot of bad luck and dealing with, I mean, she talks about her ex boyfriend and just not having a lot of control over what has happened to her and taking that into her own hands is, I think, what we all strive to do. And me as a young woman, I feel like I had to work on several years ago not saying sorry so much. And I feel like that's a lot of what a lot of women deal with. And so seeing this fierce woman going after what she wants despite what's happened to her was really empowering to me. Um, so I was really excited to play Alice. Yeah.
And so when you get a character like that, that obviously has a lot of layers, are you an actress that likes to, um, do you like kind of delve into that character, like into that mindset that they might have?
Yeah, I definitely am. I mean, I would say research is my favorite part of acting. So I guess the parts that I did research were about um, people who are kind of drifters, because doesn't really have a home, from what I gathered, and so I did some research on the homeless population. I watched several documentaries and videos about that, and because I actually when I found out I was cast in this, they're like, "Oh, we're shooting in like I think it was 3 or 4 days." So the prep was not very involved. So I would say I was freaking out a little bit, but also I was just working on this character, nonstop for those 3 days, and I listened to a lot of like punk music, tried to get into the mindset as much as I could, and just kind of shut other people out. So
Yeah, and another thing I noticed is that you had great chemistry with Harry, right? And I think there was a lot of good back and forth dialogue. Did that come naturally for you?
I think so. I mean, Harry is just so welcoming and so easy to work with. I felt so grateful that he was willing to just give me notes. I feel like it's tough. You kind of have to feel it out with other actors. Oftentimes, giving your scene partner a note can be taken the wrong way, or But he was great at. We just had a good dialogue about it, along with Jacob, the director, and we were able to find, I think, the right dynamic for what Jacob wanted.
Yeah. And so obviously the movie's not really it's not necessarily a fun watch, but I'm sure were there any like fun memories though outside of just like, filming and stuff with some of the cast or crew?
Yeah. Okay. Well, there was one day we shot in a Polish neighborhood in Chicago for a couple of days, and there was this restaurant right next to where uh, our base was, and I mean, the food was amazing. The woman only spoke Polish, so that was fun trying to order and just choose what we should try, and it was delicious. I think Harry and I both got food, and then I think Harry went back the second day to go get more because he thought it was amazing. I think it was called Tasty Polish Food, is the name of the restaurant. So very
That's a nice
simple.
nice little plug then for the
Yeah.
restaurant. But so you mentioned producing. So outside of just acting, I noticed you're very versatile, right? You've done producing and you do commercials as well, right?
Yeah, I actually started out doing commercials when I was really young, and
Really?
there's I think this one commercial I'm in is playing right now. It's a Ross commercial,
Yeah.
the clothing store.
Yeah.
So
Well,
yeah,
well, it was funny because when I was researching on you and stuff, I noticed that you had done stuff for I think Credit Karma, right? And I think
yeah.
yeah, which is funny because I think I noticed your recognize your voice in it and stuff. So that was kind of funny. I didn't notice, that you had kind of also commercials and stuff. What's that? Is that I guess it's hard to compare film versus commercials, but do you enjoy doing both equally, or is one better than the other?
They're totally different. I would say with commercial, at least because the majority of our job, or at least yeah, our job is auditions, and I feel like the auditions for commercials and for voiceover, which is what I did for Credit Karma, is totally different. I personally don't enjoy voiceovers as much, just because you're working by yourself most of the time. And I work in a closet or a voiceover booth depending on where I am. Um, so that's not as enjoyable. But when it comes to commercials and voiceover, uh, you know, it could be a good source of income. So that's why I like commercials. And also, most of the time, commercials are very upbeat. So I'm like a pretty, I guess, peppy, positive person. So when I do those, I think they're always really fun and they're quick and easy. So yeah.
Yeah, and I was just gonna say, I guess with commercials, you're very upbeat, like you said. Do you kind of have to, even if you are a very like upbeat person in general, do you kind of have to, turn that off? Is there like a difference, when you're filming those?
Do I have to turn it off when I'm doing the commercials or when I'm doing film?
Yeah, I guess like when you finish a commercial, like how does it, yeah, is there like a transition back to just being, your normal self? Is it elevated, I guess, if that makes sense?
Um, no, I would say that obviously it depends on the commercial, but I don't think I'm turning anything on or off except for maybe when we're at the end of like a 12 or 14-hour
Mhm.
day and I'm turning it on a
Yeah,
little more because I'm exhausted.
yeah,
But no, in between those, I'm not
yeah.
really turning anything off. I would say for film, sometimes I have to turn it off, film and TV, just because I think the acting styles in both is very grounded. As long as there's a baseline of groundedness, then I think it translates for either medium. But like for this movie, Jacob, the director, had told me a couple times throughout shooting, he just had to remind me to lower my voice because I can get really like happy and like this, and I'm like, okay, she's a badass. I have to keep it low.
Yeah, that's funny. So I noticed also you have done TV as well, right? You were on The Walking Dead for a little bit. What's I guess I guess I'm trying to think of exactly how to phrase this, but when you're on a TV show, there's kind of like that short, might be a short period of time or a long period of time. A movie is kind of, I don't know how many weeks you shot broadcast Signal Intrusion for, but it's like you kind of have more closure. Oh, how many?
4 weeks. I shot for 3,
Okay,
but Harry shot for 4.
okay, yeah. So then there's kind of more closure, right? Is that would you say that's fair?
Yeah, I think it depends on the character.
Mhm.
For movies, there is definitely a beginning and an end. It feels like okay, we've wrapped this up, and especially I've done a couple movies that have not come out yet. One of them I know is never going to come out. um, so once the movie finally comes out, that's when the real closure happens. And with characters in TV, for example, my Walking Dead character, I only thought I was going to be on the show for 2 episodes, and then when they extended it to 5, I was extremely grateful. But I knew that some characters don't really have full arcs. I think that's always the goal with writers, with writing. But because TV is so open ended and you don't know how long it's going to go on, the character could just keep being unraveled, and which is a really cool idea. So I, I mean, I love both. I think I get closure on both of them.
Yeah. So with broadcast Signal Intrusion, I also spoke to Jacob, and I was just wondering, like, how would you sell this movie then to viewers who are kind of, kind of maybe not the biggest sci-fi fans or something? How would you kind of sell it for them?
Hmm. It's so funny. I don't even think of it really as that sci-fi.
Okay.
Um, Maybe because my perspective was different, and she's kind of Alex is more of like the at the end.
Mhm.
She doesn't fully. Well, maybe I can't spoil it. I would say if you want to find a different conspiracy theory to try and solve and distract yourself from all the shit, can I say that, that's going on in the world right now, then and try to solve an unsolved uh, FBI case, check out Broadcast Signal Intrusion.
Yeah, definitely. And then you also mentioned you have a couple projects coming up. What do you? Is there anything you can say about anything you have coming up?
Um, yeah, so there's a horror film that's quite gory. I'm in called Shot in the Dark, which is it's in festivals in Europe right now, and um, so I don't know what the future will hold for that, but that will be coming out. That's set also in the 90s. So, and what else? I have the short film that I produced actually. It's called A Knock at the Door. That is going to be released exclusively on Shutter in March of 2022.
Yeah, very cool. And then any commercials or anything like that?
Just my Ross commercial. That's the one that's circulating right now.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, very cool. Well, definitely check Kelley out in Broadcast Signal Intrusion. I want to thank you again so much for sitting down and talking.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.